nobody knows the true story, but this is kind of what happened.
You kind of wonder, does Hallie know he didn't shoot Liberty Valance? Welcome back to the Concession Stand. I'm your host, LeBeau, and today, again, I have with me Dallen. Dallen, what movie are you talking about today?
We are talking about The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance.
Yes, a fantastic movie. Another great with John Wayne and Jimmy Stewart. Why did I blank that? Anyway, initial thoughts.
Well, we have, a movie in which, and I've seen quite a few Westerns, but I had never thought I would see James Stewart and John Wayne in the same movie playing together. Despite them actually, being friends in real life. But when I first saw this movie, it wasn't something I expected, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever,
When did you first see this?
It was a few years ago. It might have been something like 5 years ago. Yeah.
Okay.
And I've watched it a few times since then, and just recently, within the last week.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I mean, this has been my first watch. I definitely want to buy it. So yeah. It's a good movie. Surprisingly more political than I thought.
It really is.
It's like you don't really think about government in a Western.
There's a lot of politics going on at that same time. Our plot looks something kind of like, the setting is we are in a rural, place, which is not yet a state, a territory. And the townspeople are wanting to set up to be a state. But the place is still the Wild West.
Is it ever established what territory Shinbone is in?
I can't remember.
Huh.
Have to do some research. If it's like based on a real place or a place where we're just, but it's an interesting thought.
Yeah. It's got to be it's desert, so I don't know. Maybe it's based on like Tombstone?
Arizona?
Yeah.
Maybe.
I don't know. Fun stuff. Take it away.
Yeah. It is a great, awesome movie. Again, we have our antagonist is Lee Marvin, plays in a lot of John Wayne movies. He plays on Donovan's Reef, and he plays I know he plays some other movies too.
Mm-hmm.
But that one more particularly, he's right there. Very interesting. When I first saw the movie, I was some of these bad guys, they really are bad guys, and they portray them as such, to be feared, and you kind of just let them be because the townsfolk are afraid of them, and even the town marshal is afraid of them. So what do you think of that? It's the Wild West, and Marshall's supposed to do his job. How do you think he got into this position? elected, possibly.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, you have to be a justice of the peace, at least then. And I guess now, with like, sheriff is still an elected position.
For sure. So we see ourselves, um, people in this movie, they see themselves in quite the predicament. They want to become estates, but they can't because of these cattle barons and these criminals, these monsters,
Mm-hmm.
That are ruthless killers, such as Liberty Valance.
It's just a hired gun.
Yep. And so he's going around and intimidating people, even killing people. And he's feared across the whole state, it
Mm-hmm.
seems. But then we have Jimmy Stewart come into the play, and just trying to remember. Stoddard, that's right. He plays Stoddard. And he Ransom Stoddard. He's fearless, even though he ought to be fearful. He's not good with a gun.
Mm-hmm.
And his first interaction with Liberty Valance, he says, "I'm going to put you behind bars." He is a lawyer, a professor of law,
Mm-hmm.
and he 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 wants to put Liberty Valance in jail.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of hard to do when Marshall doesn't want to do his job. And so he's kind of powerless,
Mm-hmm.
it seems like. But he's very much diplomatic in how he does things. He's he's so his first encounter with Liberty Valance, he tells him, I'm going to put you behind bars.
Mm-hmm.
And Liberty, um, puts him on the ground and beats him,
Yeah.
and drives the stagecoach away. And so he's left in the middle of nowhere, beaten,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of abandoned. And someone happens upon him and brings him into town, and he's, brought back to health. And so he's, nobody believes in him.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to believe there's a diplomatic way of dealing with Liberty Valance, because you need a gun,
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like there's a sense of, you have the lawyers in this country, and then you have the police,
Mm-hmm.
and or back then the marshals. So it's I can see the way that Ransom Stoddard is trying to do things, with trying to bring justice,
Mm-hmm.
to this community.
And it's just like,
But
lawmen were so thinly spread throughout these Western territories, and it's just like, you don't have jurisdiction if a crime is committed out on the road. So
that's right.
you have to get the federal marshals on it, and they don't have the time or the resources. But yeah, it's like, it's very, very good, and the themes of like law and order versus vigilantism.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. Yeah.
And I can't remember John Wayne's character's name. It's like Tom Brandon or something like
Tom.
that.
Let me take a look for you. Tom Donovan.
Tom Donovan, yeah. Obviously, Tom Donovan was the only person that Liberty Valance was kind of afraid of. It just kind of makes you wonder why Tom never
Why was
took
that?
matters into his own hands
Yeah,
a lot sooner.
that's right.
And it could
I
just
wonder.
be his reluctance to, I guess not reluctance, but like, he probably doesn't enjoy killing, but
Oh, for
it's
sure.
definitely something he's capable of.
Yeah,
And so just having the threat of death to Liberty is just enough to keep him in line, at least when he's in town.
right. That's for sure. Yeah. It I think maybe Tom didn't want to be in the law business and just like leave me out of it. I want to do my own thing. I want to marry my girl and just, go live in the house. And,
Mm-hmm.
he built his own place and but things don't turn out quite his way, even though he turns out, helping helping his friend in the end
Yeah. You,
at the favor of uh, of Hallie.
yeah. So let's talk about Hallie. What do you think of her?
I think she's kind of a character. I don't know if she plays hard to get or just not quite Tom's type,
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like
But Tom has always thought, that he's going to marry Hallie,
uh-huh.
and I think Hallie, realizes, she's not really in love with him, you know, and the way that Hallie acts, um, when Ransom is in danger, she asks Tom to help him, and protect Ransom.
I'm not gonna
You know,
lie. I just really feel bad for Tom.
I do, I
It's
do
just
too.
like I don't know. The ending is so hard for me to read.
It's Ransom got the fame and the glory of shooting Liberty Valance, but in the end, it was really Tom who pulled the lethal trigger. You know, even though they both shot at the same time, it's revealed later in the end or near towards the end that Tom actually shot him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then they say it was in cold blood or whatever. I kind of call a bunch of bull on that. I think Tom believed that it was in cold blood or whatever. Um, but in the movie Ransom and Tom, they may not have been the best of friends,
Mm-hmm.
or friends at all, really. It's just kind of like, you're friends with Hallie, so I guess I'm kind of your friend or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But I don't think Tom was really a friend of Ransom's,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe later on, kind of get to know, but just kind of there because he's friends with Hallie,
Mm-hmm.
and he's gonna protect Ransom because he loves Hallie, and um, it's very interesting. I think it's after uh, Liberty is dead that Tom goes home and burns his house down,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And so it's something he's worked so hard for. and he just kind of gets the short end of the straw, is what it seems like. I think Tom was kind of enthralled with or in love with Hallie, wanted that so bad, but Hallie, and I'm sure she felt bad for him too. You know, she was friends with Tom, but she was more in love with Ransom.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. See, that's why it's so tough to read. It's like, all right, what is your read on their last interaction in the film when he asks, like, who put the cactus blossom on Tom's coffin?
That was Pompey. Or wait, was it?
See, I thought it was implied that she did that.
I think she did, maybe.
Because her and Link
Pompey was just there, but she went out with Link, with Marshall, and the Fire Marshal, and went and got a cactus blossom. That's right. And I think she put it on his coffin.
So like, do you read that as like her regretting marrying Ransom?
I don't know if I would quite interpret it as that. But I think she certainly felt really bad for Tom.
Yeah.
And I think maybe Tom died alone with no family. And she probably felt horrible about that because she knew that Tom was in love with her. And she ended up, going with Ransom. And so maybe there was an element of sadness or regret. Especially you're knowing someone like that and knowing that he lived probably a long and lonely life because she chose Ransom.
It's just like,
I think it's just full of sadness for her, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I need to rewatch it.
Maybe, and perhaps she might, blame herself for some of that later on because she could have foreseen those consequences later in life. That he died alone. With no one to see him. No one to be with him.
So obviously, in the future, Ransom told the newspaper man like the whole story.
No, this was okay. Yeah, you're talking about the
present. The present.
In the when they're asking about who is this that you're burying, and wanting to do the interview. That's right.
So obviously he tells them the whole story. You kind of wonder, does Hallie know he didn't shoot Liberty Valance?
That is a good question. I think Hallie might have known because it's very quite possible because he asked Tom to be there and requested that he was there to protect Ransom, and knew that he was very much incapable of protecting himself.
And
against such a dangerous guy.
I like the fact that they had Ransom actually practicing trying to learn how to shoot.
Oh, for sure.
And I don't know, like for a good bit after Liberty got shot, I thought he actually shot him.
Oh, me too.
So I'm just like,
Yeah.
good on you, buddy. But I don't know.
I think part of it is we don't really know who shot him. And I thought about this while watching
If
the
you
movie.
think that like he might have actually shot him, but Tom went to protect him and like
Well,
protect his conscience.
I think yeah, it's kind of an interesting thought.
Huh.
There's always the speculation in my head is, what if Tom, missed or whatever. But I think it was pretty clear that Tom, that Ransom couldn't have been the one, but it looked really good, and so we all thought Ransom totally got him. Um,
So
it's
shot with a
interesting.
shotgun, according to Tom. But I
He
don't
had a
know.
rifle, didn't he? Not a
It
shotgun.
was a shotgun,
No, no kidding.
but it kind of looked like he was shot from the front, not from the side.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Well, I'm sure there wasn't a whole lot of ballistics calculating involved in the creating of the movie, but it is kind of interesting to think about. What if they went back and looked at the evidence?
Mhm.
If it was a shotgun blast, and what kind of was it a slug or
I think
what
I think that
could it have been?
I think the doctor didn't really care.
Yeah, no, for
He
sure.
just kind of pushed him over and said, "Dead."
Yep, dead. Yep.
Ooh.
So I think
And
Ransom thought that he was he'd killed Liberty Valance and that he was some kind of murderer for doing that.
mhm.
When clearly it was self-defense.
Yeah,
you know
I mean,
but
Ransom only
Ransom,
shot once.
yeah.
It's just
Yep.
so the framing of that just kind of makes you wonder, like, had Tom been the one, and had Ransom been the one, when
And
the marshal
that's an
finally gets
interesting.
rallied to kick these guys out of town.
Yeah,
It's just
that is an interesting thought that you put there, though. Is could have things been portrayed differently in the movie according to how Tom describes to Ransom how it happened?
mhm.
Or could Tom not have pulled the trigger and really it was Ransom that killed him? And so he only tells him that to get that off of his conscience.
Mhm.
Um, Tom recognized that the state needed, good men to run,
Mhm.
run for office. So he reassured Ransom that, hey, like, yeah, you know, you do this, you're not the one who shot Liberty Valance. Just keep that off your mind.
Yeah.
People are gonna say that, and the truth is that people will never know.
Yeah, I mean, he took it to his grave.
So it's one of those legends of the West. It's just kind of um, nobody knows the true story, but this is kind of what happened.
Mhm.
So that's interesting for sure.
Like, I don't know. Do you think that he, like, in later years, he was suffering from like stolen valor, or just the sickening thing that he was always known as the man who shot Liberty Valance? and that he even considered
I think,
for a moment killing him and taking it into relying on the gun rather than the law.
well, after Mr. Peabody was hurt really badly, like they thought he was gonna die. Um, Ransom, did take the law into his own hands, and no matter what was gonna happen, he was gonna try to shoot Liberty, and try to avenge his friend.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was kind of the turning point for Ransom. That
Yeah.
you know what, if I can't put this man behind bars, I'm gonna put him in the ground,
Mm-hmm. It
So
has to stop with me.
it has to stop, you know. Um, it's kind of an interesting thing there when you don't have the resources and things like that. People back then, they had to take the law into their own hands.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about a lot that back then, you steal a horse and they would hang you.
Yeah.
Penalty was death.
No
They'd hang you or
jury,
shoot
no
you.
trial
Yeah,
needed. Just like,
they just hang you.
yeah.
Nowadays, if you steal a horse, well, maybe you go to jail for a little while. But um,
I mean,
it's not like
it's
things
Grand
things
Theft
have
Auto,
changed.
basically.
That's right. That's right. Things have changed so dramatically. But back then, when resources were scarce and horses were a real valuable commodity,
Mm-hmm.
it's very important to protect that, cattle especially, and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
That was very important to people's livelihood and survival. A horse, you could be stranded 20 or 40 miles out of town.
Mm-hmm.
That was, would be pretty awful,
Yeah.
and possibly a death sentence. So it's people had to take the law into their own hands.
Yeah.
That's how it was. And with Ransom, I think it was an act of desperation. It needed to end.
Mm-hmm. I think it's
Nobody else.
I,
Oh, sorry.
I think it's interesting. The two mantras, like, it has to be handled with a gun or it has to be handled by the law.
That's right.
Liberty was handled with the gun, and the guys paying him were dealt with the law.
Yep.
And so they both played their part. So I think maybe in Ransom's eyes, it was a failure of law and order.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But I mean, he was able, like, that gave him the grassroots ability to become a delegate and then to become the governor and the senator
Yeah.
and an ambassador to Europe. And it's just like,
Right. Well, and consider this though, is he did take these greater opportunities later on, but at the beginning he didn't want to be a delegate. He just wanted to be a lawyer.
mm-hmm.
And it kind of goes to show how you know humble his character was. Just kind of, he wanted to not be noticed by you know everybody. Just wanted to do his job and live his life. But with that happening, people recognized he was a good man and he would be fit for office.
Mm-hmm. I do kind of find it funny that they describe him as a young man just out of law school, and this dude's easily 50.
Oh, for sure.
It's just like, I love Jimmy Stewart, man, but he cannot pull off a young man in his 50s.
Well, consider that how many years it takes to get through law school, you know?
I don't think it takes like 20. But
True.
that
That's
aside,
true.
uh, uh,
No, the man could have had another career. You never know.
yeah, fair. It's like, oh yeah, I went back to school, went back to law school at 40.
That's right.
It's like calling Enoch a lad.
I don't think he was. I don't think he was 40 when this movie was filmed.
I
Gosh,
need to
maybe
look
he
that
was
because like I would imagine he was like 30 something
30 something.
in the late 40s, and this was 1962.
Jimmy Stewart was born in 1908. Wow. Okay, yeah, he was
So yeah,
old.
he was 50.
50.
Let's see,
Wow, 56.
1962
No, I can't remember.
minus
Do the math.
1902. He was 6. Oh, wait.
1908.
Yeah, 54.
54.
A young
Close.
man at 54.
That's right.
But
Is that
like,
how he described himself?
oh, well, that's how.
I can't remember. It's been a while since I've seen the movie, but yeah,
That might have been Link describing him like that.
maybe so. Maybe.
Huh. Anyway. Great movie. Final
Very
thoughts
good
before
movie.
we wrap up.
Well, talk to your local marshal if you have bad guys in your life.
Uh-huh. And work as a waiter until you can afford your room and board.
That's right. That's right.
But no, in all seriousness, what do you give it out of 10?
I think I'd give it a 9 or 10. Honestly, I think it's a very well written movie.
Oh yeah.
Started with, well, I can't say it started and ended with Liberty Valance, but the story started and ended, with him meeting Liberty Valance, and then the end of him,
Mm-hmm.
Leading up to the showdown. It really, I think it's a fantastic movie, and it compares and contrasts the law and order versus vigilanteism. We in this movie, we all feel like we want to be a vigilante, and go after liberty.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of interesting how movies can do that,
Yeah.
kind of invoke, such feelings.
Mm-hmm.
But after watching it a few times, you realize it's a movie, and it's all fun.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a very well written movie.
Oh yeah.
Only well written movies can make you feel like that.
Yeah. And I didn't expect the movie to make me think as much as it did.
Oh, for sure.
And like speculate, and it's like, oh, so good. John Ford. I'll just share this. Have you seen The Fabelmans? Okay.
Fablemans.
Yeah. So it is a movie. I see. It's a pseudo autobiographical movie about Steven Spielberg, and in the movie, and in real life, he had a chance meeting with John Ford.
Yeah.
And I could only think about that the entire time watching this movie. It's just like, if the horizon is at the top, it's interesting. If the horizon is at the bottom, it's interesting. But if the horizon is in the middle, it's boring as crap.
Yep.
And so it's, I don't know, just like classic
Good way to
film
put it.
from a legendary filmmaker. For me, numerical rating, 10 out of 10. It was a really good, remarkable movie. With that being said, that is our show, brought to you by Popcorn Fumes and a Prayer. Our executive producer is Penny Pincher. Our director of photography is Cam Speed. First AD was Slade Clapper. Our audio is by Check12. Legal is by Sumi Idaria. Makeup is by Make You Pretty. Our marketing wizard is Trey Lur. Stunts were by Fallen Hard. Script notes are from Paige Turner. Our editor is Seymour Takes. Transport was via Miles Away. And Union Matters are handled, as always, by Salary. Thank you so much for watching and or listening. And remember, if it looks good, it was probably done in post.